chest. And all these pieces. Almost all the streets that I've crossed got flowers and pictures posted on the sidewalk. Memories of almost all the homies I've lost. I feel like mama's looking at me like it's my fault. He be alive, he wasn't fucking with you, demon. And now he gone and I'm still picking up the pieces. I swear to God, I really felt that in my chest. She looked me in my eyes, said, I pray your mama next. I stride on, no escape from the expression that was written on my mama's face. And it's a miracle she ever even kept her faith. I stride on, but there's no escape from the expression that was written on my mama's face. And it's a miracle she ever even kept her faith. I go high, I wake up flinching in my sleep, I'm fighting demons. I wake up sweating on my sleep, I think I'm bleeding. One in the neck in case somebody tries to sleep. I go high, I wake up flinching in my sleep, I'm fighting demons. I wake up sweating on my sleep, I think I'm bleeding. One in the neck in case somebody tries to sleep. Almost all the streets that I've crossed got flowers and pictures posted on the sidewalk. Memories of almost all the homies I've lost. I feel like mama's looking at me like it's my fault. He be alive, he wasn't fucking with you, demon. And now he gone and I'm still picking up the pieces. I swear to God, I really felt that in my chest. She looked me in my eyes, said, I pray your mama next. I stride on, escape from the expression that was written on my mama's face. And it's a miracle she ever even kept her faith. I go high. When it's moving through dark side, clearing up all the lies in the rumors too. Dark side, you say you want my life, you gotta fight me first. Dark side, come outside round here, this nothing like church. Dark side, come and get this life. They talked about Jesus, give them something to Babylon. Just know my whole team is battle tested and battle strong. One world speaking that Tower Babel tongue. Cole Hammurabi thinking ancient Babylon. No pun intended, Reaganomics had us under avalanche. We took off like a rocket, they was praying we could never launch into the upper echelon. You can never be yourself. Every day is Comic-Con, fast money Ramadan. Who collected Condom? Cold check my vital signs. Motel 6 float. Woke up with the brightest mind. Out of sight, out an idle mind. They hate it when you idolize. We living in the final times. Guess you Ellen Keller blind. Spirit when it's moving through. Dark side, clearing up all the lies and the rumors too. Dark side, you say you want my life, you gotta fight me first. Dark side, come outside round here, this nothing like church. Dark side, come and get this life. Put my soul on the altar, I never offer a sacrifice. The blood that we need for the lamb ain't never acting right. I take my path tonight, knowing that I might have to fight. I probably grab a knife and a 9. I guess I'm packing light, focus on the now. Just as much as the afterlife, I recognize the spirit is only taking up half the fight. Stairway to heaven, He won't make it up half a flight. He working, making bacon bits, probably out on the Sabbath night. Shoot for the moon, hoping to hit a satellite. You can ask him why when they see me, they call on Adonai. When we both know at the most he telling you half a lie. Feel the transition begin to happen when passing time. I came back in the sky, just like an astronaut, to say you selling Africans out. See you and asking Mike, and it's sad to say they really had it bad for Christ. And I hear the Habasha thinking they are the half as
The spirit when it's moving through.
dark side, dark side.
Clearing up all the lies and the rumors too.
Dark side, dark side.
You say you want my life, you gotta fight me first.
Dark side, dark side.
Come outside round here, there's nothing like church.
Dark side, dark side.
Come and get this life work.
All right, all right. Power to the dark side, family. Power to the dark side. As y'all know, I got to start this thing off with a special praise to the most beautiful goddess of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, Stimia, whose image is the most beautiful Whoopi Goldberg. Shout out to all my Babel builders that are in the building. Remember, if you are listening to this, together we are Babel. Let's build. So, let me get this all the way in order. Should have did this first. But hey. So yeah, I got a quick little presentation I had put together real quick. Just pretty much wanted to go over an article. Get a quick little discussion on non-participation. Let me see where it's at. Oh, get a quick little non-participation. And of course, why I say this is the only. There we go. This is the only answer to capitalism. Especially when we're talking about Black liberation and building a Black independent state, right? We're talking about Black liberation and building a Black independent state. This is the only answer. The first step will be non-participation. Part of, we had a saying that we used to always say. We don't say it as much, but it was power and chaos. Power and chaos. And the reason why we talked about chaos, not just any chaos, we talked about absolute chaos, total chaos. Because there's a certain belief that even in our darkest times, as long as the lights go out for everyone as a whole, we will be able to come out of it, right? As a whole. One thing I definitely do believe is that you'll hear a lot of people, well, how are we going to eat? What about the babies? I believe that we will feed each other. We will shelter each other. And we will protect each other. That is our one mission. So, a part of the process of rebuilding this Tower of Babel, of course, in order to rebuild the Tower of Babel, this Antichrist government must fall. And the reason why I say it's the Antichrist government, because we know Christ means the anointed. We are the anointed. And so anything that goes against the anointed is Antichrist. So yes, this is an Antichrist government. Capitalism is the mark of the beast. You have accepted it. Your participation is you accepting the mark of the beast. I want to get into, see, actually, I'll start this thing out with a video. Let's see how this works. If this allows me to play it through clearly, we'll start out with that. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and go into the presentation.
The boundaries of what is possible, whether it's the third, fourth, fifth generation, it's going to be very soon until we can literally just type in a prompt and see something as a consumer, and you don't have to have any sort of skills as a visual effects artist or as someone in the entertainment industry.
My whole system is moving a little bit slow. There we go. Did I do it again? Okay, I can't stop double tapping it. Here we go. All right, let's get it in order. God damn. Double tapping the hell out of this one.
Hollywood production may be fueled by upwards of 58 different entertainment guilds and unions. These unions operate in tandem with one massive trade association, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, or AMPTP, which represents all major studios and streaming platforms. To stay on pace with the ever-changing media landscape, the Studio Alliance and the Hollywood unions convene once every 3 years to establish minimum basic agreements. Past negotiations have tackled pension programs, health funds, residual payments, and minimum wage agreements. Of the many topics under consideration in this year's contract negotiations, one nascent technology has entered the conversation for the first time: artificial intelligence.
I hope I'm wrong, but I do think that the use of AI is going to take over the entertainment industry. And I think it's going to be really bad.
The last WGA strike in 2007 lasted 100 days and cost California's economy approximately $2.1 billion in revenue.
When I was on the negotiating committee of Screen Actors Guild around 07, 08, we were trying to get residuals for Made for New Media. That's what streaming was called then. The studio said, well, it's so new. We don't know if we're even going to make money on the internet. I mean, it's so untried, so unproven. And I said to the rest of the committee, like, we better get some real estate in here because this is just another way to distribute things.
After 14 months on the picket line, WGA writers ratified a deal that granted the union jurisdiction over new media and codified a system for creators to receive royalty payments from streamed content. The hard-fought win laid a foundation for residual compensation before streaming took over as a leader in content distribution. Widespread consumer adoption of streaming has made it the new standard for entertainment. But businesses operating in the space are struggling to achieve profitability.
Today, the only one we know of that is cash flow positive is Netflix. They've estimated there'll be about $3.5 billion of free cash flow this year. Every other company out there, if you think about it, are losing money. Disney, Warner Bros. Discovery, losing billions and billions and billions of dollars a year. And then you also have to scale this. It's not enough to have a couple million subscribers. It took Netflix getting to about 200 million subscribers before they got cash flow positive. The platforms are trying to figure out what works best from their bottom line.
In the face of weak revenues, streaming companies have been issuing layoffs, bundling services, and removing content from their platforms. While content removal helps curtail balance sheet losses, the action cuts off content creators from receiving residual profits, often without any formal notification.
Streaming platforms that are creating their own content and their own originals are constantly changing the way they license content. They've jumped from service to service to service in new licensing deals. Some of those deals are 1 year long, some of them are multi-years. Every time a content deal is done with a streaming platform or distribution, it has a direct impact on those that created the content. Distributors, producers, writers, actors, because they're getting royalties based on that. So they don't like that some content is being removed from streaming platforms because now they're not getting compensated for that anymore.
The advent of streaming has granted audiences unprecedented access to massive libraries of on-demand content, a modern luxury that could dampen how viewers feel the effects of a strike.
Last time the Writers Guild struck was in 2007-2008. And everybody really felt it. The audience felt it, the studios felt it, because if there wasn't new material being made, there was nothing. There was no streaming. There was broadcast television, there was cable television, and there were movies. Now there's a strike, and there are streaming sites where you can watch an almost unlimited amount of material while we're on strike. So just in that way, you can see how striking now has possibly less impact than when we struck in 07 and 08.
With content generation imperative to the success of both writers and studios, the advent of AI has thrown an unforeseen wrench into contract negotiations. Rather than an outright ban, the WGA has proposed guardrails for AI technology that aim to protect the working standards, payment systems, and authorship credit for writers. As for the studios, their statement on AI acknowledges ambiguity around the emerging technology and proposes annual discussions before landing on an official regulatory agreement. The Alliance's unwillingness to outline strict policies around generative AI tools has led to a stalemate. As the WGA takes to the picket line, other entertainment unions have begun their own contract negotiations with the Alliance. The Directors Guild of America struck a contract agreement with the studios. On the topic of AI, both parties agreed that AI is not a person and that generative AI cannot replace the duties performed by members. Alliance negotiations with the Screen Actors Guild are underway, with the existing contract set to expire June 30th, 2023. Ahead of contract negotiations with the Alliance, the Screen Actors Guild voted in favor of a strike, a proactive step in hopes of bringing more leverage to the bargaining table. They maintain that using AI to replicate an actor's voice or likeness requires the performer's consent and compensation.
Really, I think the place that we are going to as a society is prompt to entertainment. Literally being able to type in, I want to see an action movie, and I want it to be funny, and I want it to take place in Texas, go. And it spits out a movie.
This is Caleb Ward. He's the founder of Curious Refuge, a production hub and learning portal for AI filmmakers. Curious Refuge's viral videos have given millions of viewers a brief glimpse of what an AI film future may look like. AI generates content through a digestive process. The model takes in pre-existing content, both copyright protected and public domain. From this, it produces an amalgamation of information. The output looks new, but comes from existing media and sources.
These tools are now teaching themselves based on those iterations, and generating its own reference points. Now we're seeing works that you would never know what the inspiration source was, and it seemingly is something that's coming from thin air, but it's being pulled from, you know, a million different resources and not just one. Writers will be able to show what the final product will look like in the writer's room. That has never been possible before.
In the grand tapestry of fate, I'm less of a golden thread and more of a knot.
And so I think writers now are going to have more power than ever before to direct these creative projects.
AI enthusiasts like Caleb see the technology as an equalizer that enables individuals with no experience in the entertainment industry to produce cinematic worlds.
Creative tools like this have always evolved how we tell stories, and I think that this is just a time of transition for us, and so we're all going to learn how to use these tools soon.
I think the idea that AI would democratize entertainment is absolutely ridiculous. What that's really saying is that the unskilled and the untalented would be able to pretend that they are skilled and talented.
Hold on. Get that back. Let me get that right back. Skip a little bit ahead though. So yeah. Now I find it funny. If you notice, one of the things that they said is that the strikes are becoming less powerful.
On the brink of a full production shutdown. But this could be the first one in which artificial intelligence plays a big role.
Oh, let me see. Let me get it. Skip ahead in the video. Actually, no. Actually, go ahead and get into the presentation. Remove. Let's go ahead and remove that before it crashes my shit again. All right, so yeah. And this is what we talk about whenever we talking about non-participation. If you notice that one of the statements that they made was that the strikes are getting less and less, or becoming less and less effective, right? And The reason being is the same way that we told you. We're already heading towards a brick wall at full speed. The longer that you stay on the train, the harder it's going to be for you to affect the outcome. Your time is becoming more and more limited. It's very simple. So at one point, the strikes that they had was able to cause, and get the slides back up real quick. I want to get into it. The slides that they had, the strikes that they had was actually able to cause a disruption. But as time has gone by, they've been able to adjust to your non-participation. So what do we end up getting? You're becoming replaceable. Every day, you're becoming more and more replaceable. But see, what's really key too is that your action, right, or your participation is what has been fueling the system. So constantly fueling the system, but then expecting for it to run out of gas. It's just backwards thinking. So I want to get into it. This is Los Angeles City's employees go on strike alleging exploitive conditions. This is from August 8th, 2023, 12 p.m. Right? This is by Michael Misanas. So we get into it. The union, representing over 11,000 city employees, said the strike, which has halted or limited an array of public service, will last for 24 hours. Now, when we talk about non-participation, this isn't something that comes with a time limit. This isn't something that they are able to pay their way out of. We're talking about non-participating until we cause chaos, right? It's bigger than just disrupting for an economic outcome. Our point of disruption is for an independent state. Now, Los Angeles. Thousands of Los Angeles city employees began striking early Tuesday, accusing their employer of subjecting them to exploitative working conditions and engaging in bad faith contract negotiations. Why? Because they know that they have the advantage. Service employees, International Union, Local 721, which represents over 11,000 city employees, said it's protesting unfair working conditions, such as staffing shortages in city agencies that force employees to work overtime. We already talked about this. As the further that we go inside of this system, what has happened? You're beginning to work more and more hours. We already talked about the fact that at one point in time, 25 hours a week was full time. 40 hours, you were in overtime. Now 40 hours is a regular work week. And now 60 hours is overtime. What you're stepping into is a part of this, or is a part of life where now 60 hours is going to become the regular work week. And it's going to take more time in order for you to catch overtime. The union says the strike will last 24 hours, and it has already halted or limited an array of public services, trash collection, and homeless encampment cleanups ground to a halt. Some public shuttered, and city parking enforcements at popular event venues such as the Hollywood Bowl was delayed. We're talking about people who affect how your city functions. Affecting how your city functions is how you do what? Disrupt the system. Now, part of the issue that we have is how people look at certain roles in society. That's part of the issue when we talk about capitalism in the first place. Shout out to Hood Therapy. Appreciate you in the building, sis. That is a part of the issue. We don't see until they not coming through to collect your trash. You're not gonna notice how important the trash collector actually is. The people who actually clean up behind you, the people who actually, by keeping the city clean, the people who serve you. This is what helps you enjoy life. There are people who go out to eat and feel like they deserve to be served. And the way that they view the person who is serving them, right? The person who brought the drinks to your table, the person who fixed your plate or who brought your plate to your table, the person who made sure that you had a clean glass to drink out of, to make sure that you had clean utensils to eat off of, a clean plate. This, a lot of times, these people go unappreciated. And you have to think to yourself, how much would you enjoy going out to eat if you had to serve your damn self? Well, then you might as well stay home. You just might as well stay your ass at home. So these people with these type of jobs, guess what? They are part of the necessity of your enjoyment of the system. Now we talk about the union, which represents city sanitation workers. This ain't just keeping the streets clean. This is also dealing with your water, keeping your water system clean, functioning correctly. Heavy duty mechanics, traffic officers, and engineers. People who are what? Not only building, but also keeping control. You start losing traffic officers, you start creating chaos. You lose your engineers, you start to see a slack in the infrastructure. They began this strike at 12:01 a.m. on a Tuesday. This was Pacific time, so I want to say 2 a.m. East Coast time. And the workers began picketing outside Los Angeles International Airport at 4 a.m. Mike Long, the union's communications director, said the workers would stage a few dozen active picket lines at other city landmarks, including the Griffith Observatory, throughout the day as well. Now, part of the issue I have, even though that they are showing their power, shout out to Fatavius, appreciate you, God, peace, peace. Part of the power that you have, and people don't understand, this system functions off of your energy. So when you allow the system to take advantage of you and control your energy, then guess what? You are giving up your power. But it's only for so long that you will be able to have this power. Because as we can see, AI has been moving in order to take your place. Who built the AI? You did. Who's spearheading AI? You are. Every time you use the self-checkout, you spearhead the movement to replace you in this society. And not only that, you relinquish power. So around 11 a.m., droves of striking workers Many wielding picket signs and purple cowbells converged on the steps of City Hall, forming a chorus of dissent as they chanted in unison. "We are the Union," a strike leader yelled. "Fighting for justice," the crowd roared back. They want she says and for hood therapy, she says she missed the beginning. They're looking for better working conditions. They want, because what you've been seeing is a lot of in most cities, what they're doing is they are cutting so much labor that it's putting more and more work on regular people, to where you're not asked to work overtime. You're being forced to work overtime. Meaning it's raising your stress level, raising your ability to think, raising your ability to actually just deal with yourself. You don't really have the time. And we already said part of the way that they keep you from disrupting the system is not giving you enough time, which is why they only had 24 hours to protest, because they knew at the end of the day they had to get back. Not only that, they're not getting paid enough to live in the city that they fucking cleaning up. But we're going to keep going and get into that. The SEIU, Local 721, reached an agreement with the city government last year, which remains in effect until December. In the agreement, the city pledged to consider hundreds of union proposals in separate negotiation sessions during the months following the deal. But talks collapsed when city's officials moved to merge the negotiation with talks about renewing the union's contract, the group said, prompting it to file an unfair practice complaint. No, they getting paid overtime, but they're being forced to work overtime is the issue. Not only are they being forced to work overtime, but in a lot of these cases, they doing 2 and 3 different people's jobs, and they pay ain't really reflecting that. So the overtime part, they probably be okay with. The problem is now that they didn't cut so many jobs, they doing jobs that was once for 2, 3, 4 different people, and they compacting this all into one worker, which is unsafe. This just becomes very unsafe. But not only that, these people got families. Can't take a day off. I think what it was Drake that said, I can never take a day off. I don't got a nigga that could cover for me. Part of the fucking issue. And I swear to God, I know how that feels. Swear to God, I know exactly how that feels. But that's another topic. As a driver, you're doing extra days of work and extra working hours, and it puts stress on you. It's not good for the city. Now, we want sleepy drivers on the damn road? Hell no. It's not good for the city, Cornelius said. The more help we get, the better the city is going to be in the long run. Now, this is going towards infrastructure. This is going towards keeping the streets clean. Not only that, the products that different businesses get that you benefit from. So at one point in time, all of the truckers went on strike. Remember that? They all went on strike in Canada over the working conditions. Over how quickly they had to get these how quickly they had to deliver things to different businesses, whether these be products that you eat with or whatever, because which is one of the reasons why when you was going to a lot of places, they was out of everything. You go to McDonald's to go and get served and enjoy what they giving you, they out of the fucking mustard. What's good, Al Capone? Peace, God. You going places, these niggas, like it was places, yo, they was selling, they was fucking buying fucking fries from Walmart and trying to sell them to you at regular price. And part of another issue, the stress that they've been putting has been raised in the price. Just think about it. McDonald's right now is the same as fucking Chick-fil-A. Going to McDonald's and buying the number one is the fucking same price as going to Chick-fil-A. Nowhere near the same quality of food, nor the same quality of service. Going into the store and trying to buy your goddamn groceries is almost more, costs more than eating out. It's not even an advantage to eat at home no more. That used to be the cry and the advantage. Well, if you just bought a pack of nigga, a pack of fucking chicken is like $20 right now. And half of that shit, depending on how you eat, who you're eating with, it's finna spoil on you before you even get through all of it. But all parts of society, they're being taken advantage of. Now, this is what the mayor had to say. Why? Listen to this bullshit. Mayor Karen Bass said in a statement Monday that the strike would enforce the city to shut down. That's some cocky ass shit to say. Though she said airline passengers should set aside extra time to travel to and from LAX. Why? Because it's slowing fucking down your ability to travel. Her office is implementing a plan. Look at this plan. The plan ain't to help out to make the people who are striking happy, to try to negotiate with the strikers to work something out. Her plan is to try to figure out how the fuck she gonna work around the strikers. That will ensure emergency services from the Los Angeles Police and Fire Department aren't affected by the strike, who also joined in on the strike, just so y'all know. And she added that the city is prepared to advance contract negotiation with the striking workers at any time. So the people who putting out fire, the people who are responsible for crime, you're not really gonna try to figure out a way to make them happy. Your plan is to figure out a way to work around them. So now if you figure out a way to work around these people, do you think that's gonna help the negotiations for the strikers, or is that gonna hurt them? No, this is a way to gain more leverage in the negotiation process. There's some cocky shit to say. The strike would enforce the city to shut down. I wonder if it lasted 3 days, would it force the city to shut down? 4 days. A week. A week of nobody picking up the trash. Nobody controlling traffic. A week of nobody cleaning up the streets. Nobody keeping up with the infrastructure. Nobody cleaning the sanitation system. I wonder if that'll shut the fucking city down. When shit starts pumping through your goddamn water pipes, we'll see. Like I said over the weekend, the city will always be available to make progress with SEIU 721. And we will continue bargaining in good faith, Bass said. Now, this is according to her. They're bargaining in good faith. But according to the strikers, it ain't been in good faith. They've been negotiating in a way that they can take advantage of these people. Tuesday's strikes comes amid a flurry of labor activity in California as it faces soaring rents and homelessness. What's causing the soaring rents and the homelessness? Well, let's get into that. or how does this affect the workers? Thousands of California hotel workers began striking last month, demanding higher wages and other benefits, as they argue their existing salaries can't sustain them in the Los Angeles area. Once again, you are not going to be able to enjoy the benefits of even going to the hotel. You think these folks making sure your goddamn sheets is clean when you go to stay somewhere, if they ain't being properly compensated? You laying on somebody else than already been sweating and all kind of stuff on them damn sheets that you finna lay on when you go on vacation over the weekend. Hollywood actors walked off their sets last month after negotiating between Screen Actors Guild and top studio collapses. Separately, the Writers Guild of America began striking over 100 days ago, demanding higher compensation and residuals, as well as writers' staffing minimum on TV shows. But we already seen they're being replaced by AI. So AI is going to be able to write. And this is part of the issue. AI now is going to be able to write the music, steal people's likeness without these people being compensated. They're not trying to negotiate in good faith. They're buying time to figure out a way around you. In Northern California, nearly 4,500 San Jose City employers plan to begin a 3-day strike. A 3-day strike. They up in the ante next week over similar grievances, citing that they call chronic understaffing in city agencies and low pay, according to NBC Bay Area. So these people are literally how you benefit off of the way your city functions, and they're barely being able to even afford to live in the city that they upkeep. But this is what we talk about when we say you're on a train. This train is on fire. You're headed into a brick wall. At some point in time, we have to jump the fuck off. Shout out to Nika Starseed. I appreciate you in the building, sis. Power to the dark side. You're going to have to jump off. The more that you continue to stay on the train, the less time that you have to actually flex your strength. Your power is becoming less and less effective. They ain't figuring out a way to make you happy. They figuring out a way to work around your ass. You got places now where artificial intelligence is making your burgers and flipping them for you and shit. I want to see if I can get back into the video real quick.
a big role.
There are various tools that are trying to push the boundaries of what is possible. Whether it's the third, fourth, fifth generation, it's going to be very soon until we can literally just type in a prompt and see something as a consumer, and you don't have to have any sort of skills as a visual effects artist or as someone in the entertainment industry.
Here's why the generative potential of AI has emerged as a key issue in this year's writers' strike. The life force behind your favorite Hollywood production may be fueled by upwards of 58 different entertainment guilds and unions. These unions operate in tandem with one massive trade association, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, or AMPTP, which represents all major studios and streaming platforms. To stay on pace with the ever-changing media landscape, the Studio Alliance and the Hollywood unions convene once every 3 years to establish minimum basic agreements. Past negotiations have tackled pension programs, health funds, residual payments, and minimum wage agreements. Of the many topics under consideration in this year's contract negotiations, one nascent technology has entered the conversation for the first time: artificial intelligence.
I hope I'm wrong, but I do think that the use of AI is going to take over the entertainment industry. And I think it's going to be really bad.
The last WGA strike in 2007 lasted 100 days and cost California's economy approximately $2.1 billion in revenue.
When I was on the negotiating committee of Screen Actors Guild around 07, 08, we were trying to get residuals for Made for New Media. That's what streaming was called then. The studio said, well, it's so new. We don't know if we're even going to make money on the internet. I mean, it's so untried, so unproven. And I said to the rest of the committee, like, we better get some real estate in here because this is just another way to distribute things.
After 14 months on the picket line, WGA writers ratified a deal that granted the union jurisdiction over new media and codified a system for creators to receive royalty payments from streamed content. The hard-fought win laid a foundation for residual compensation before streaming took over as a leader in content distribution. Widespread consumer adoption of streaming has made it the new standard for entertainment, but businesses operating in this space are struggling to achieve profitability.
Today, the only one we know of that is cash flow positive is Netflix. They've estimated there'll be about $3.5 billion of free cash flow this year. Every other company out there, if you think about it, are losing money. Disney, Warner Bros. Discovery, losing billions and billions and billions of dollars a year. And then you also have to scale this. It's not enough to have a couple million subscribers. It took Netflix getting to about 200 million subscribers before they got cash flow positive. The platforms are trying to figure out what works best from their bottom line.
In the face of weak revenues, streaming companies have been issuing layoffs, bundling services, and removing content from their platforms. While content removal helps curtail balance sheet losses, the action cuts off content creators from receiving residual profits, often without any formal notification.
Streaming platforms that are creating their own content and their own originals are constantly changing the way they license content. They've jumped from service to service to service in new licensing deals. Some of those deals are 1 year long, some of them are multi-years. Every time a content deal is done with a streaming platform or distribution, it has a direct impact on those that created the content. Distributors, producers, writers, actors, because they're getting royalties based on that. So they don't like that some content is being removed from streaming platforms because now they're not getting compensated for that anymore.
The advent of streaming has granted audiences unprecedented access to massive libraries of on-demand content, a modern luxury that could dampen how viewers feel the effects of a strike.
Last time the Writers Guild struck was in 2007, 2008. And everybody really felt it. The audience felt it, the studios felt it, because if there wasn't new material being made, there was nothing. There was no streaming. There was broadcast television, there was cable television, and there were movies. Now, there's a strike, and There are streaming sites where you can watch an almost unlimited amount of material while we're on strike. So just in that way, you can see how striking now has possibly less impact than when we struck in 07 and 08.
With content generation imperative to the success of both writers and studios, the advent of AI has thrown an unforeseen wrench into contract negotiations. Rather than an outright ban, the WGA has proposed guardrails for AI technology that aim to protect the working standards, payment systems, and authorship credit for writers. As for the studios, their statement on AI acknowledges ambiguity around the emerging technology and proposes annual discussions before landing on an official regulatory agreement. The Alliance's unwillingness to outline strict policies around generative AI tools has led to a stalemate. As the WGA takes to the picket line, other entertainment unions have begun their own contract negotiations with the Alliance. The Directors Guild of America struck a contract agreement with the studios. On the topic of AI, both parties agreed that AI is not a person and that generative AI cannot replace the duties performed by members. Alliance negotiations with the Screen Actors Guild are underway, with the existing contract set to expire June 30th, 2023. Ahead of contract negotiations with the Alliance, the Screen Actors Guild voted in favor of a strike, a proactive step in hopes of bringing more leverage to the bargaining table. They maintain that using AI to replicate an actor's voice or likeness requires the performer's consent and compensation.
Really, I think the place that we are going to as a society is prompt to entertainment. Literally being able to type in, I want to see an action movie, and I want it to be funny, and I want it to take place in Texas, go. And it spits out a movie.
This is Caleb Ward. He's the founder of Curious Refuge, a production hub and learning portal for AI filmmakers. Curious Refuge's viral videos have given millions of viewers a brief glimpse of what an AI film future may look like. AI generates content through a digestive process. The model takes in pre-existing content, both copyright protected and public domain. From this, it produces an amalgamation of information. The output looks new, but comes from existing media and sources.
These tools are now teaching themselves based on those iterations and generating its own reference points. Now we're seeing works that you would never know what the inspiration source was, and it seemingly is something that's coming from thin air, but it's being pulled from, a million different resources and not just one.
Ah, damn. I can't even be added to the stream. What the hell? So anyway, yeah. Peace, Tequila. How you doing today, sis? So yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think number one of the things you got to look at, because I think a lot of times people think, or they feel like they so secure in where they at, that they don't see how they can be affected by those around them. But when you have less opportunities, you have an uptick in crime. Now, we know that people are going to hurt people who are in the closer proximity to them. So when people are hungry and they're wanting something, you begin to look like food more and more. There are people who are in situations where they don't have to worry about it, and therefore they don't give a fuck about your outcome, whether or not. And see, they know that, hey, they don't have to be on the ground. You do. You do. So the little bit that you have starts to become more and more a target for those around you who don't. And it's not just that easy just to get away from those people who don't have, because the system in itself is creating every day more and more people who don't have. We're seeing an uptick in homelessness. We're seeing an uptick in people in people basically losing opportunities, losing their jobs. All of these things on a everyday basis affect you. People being able to afford to feed themselves. This becomes an uptick in crime. Now, the more that we see an uptick in crime, that means you walking to your car, putting your groceries in your car becomes more and more dangerous. The people who are supposed to be in charge, who you entrust with the control of the society, don't even give a damn. Their objective is to figure out a way around you so that they can negotiate, and they're just negotiating to buy time until they don't fucking need you no more. You only have one power in the fight against this society. That's your time. That's your energy. You only have your energy. The objective is for them to keep you low energy. Therefore, what? You don't have any time to actually think. Therefore, you don't really have time to really see, care about, or even understand what's really going on around you. We're never going back to normal. And that's what all of this is equal. They played this game for a long time. We went through the COVID crisis. And ever since it happened, they've been pretending like things are going to go back to normal. They're not. More and more places that you felt like was established, a lot of these places were foundational to this nation in itself, closing down, falling apart. More and more people are making a conscious decision. They're just saying, it's not really worth it for me to go back. I don't really know how this is going to get paid. I don't know how that's going to get paid. But I know that my time and my energy isn't being properly compensated. part of the discussion, and when we talk about non-participation, it's really the inevitable. It's going to happen regardless. But the reason why we have the conversation in the way that we do, it's to really expose a lot of the people who's supposed to have faith. It's just to expose their fear. And these fear mongers try to express it or project it onto you. You don't have to be afraid of the coming condition. If anything, you should be excited. The days of your exploitation are coming to an end. In order for us to, we a lot of times we talk about taking power and taking control. Not in all sectors. Because a lot of motherfuckers just want to be comfortable. I constantly say that. A lot of these people don't really care about taking control, controlling your own time, controlling the laws that dictate us. A lot of people are comfortable in the situation or the scenarios that they're in. But I say it's going to be hard for you to complain about laws that are created that go against you and that are created to benefit what I guess we would call the majority, if you want to call it that. It's going to be hard for you to complain when you're not taking steps towards your own autonomy. Who's allowed to teach in the schools? Who you allow to, who you allow to go to the bathroom with? All of these different things that are dictated by a government that doesn't represent you. It's going to be hard for you to complain. The reason why we need an independent state is so that we get representation. Equal representation for us. We have morals and standards and things that we want to live by and abide by that don't even get mentioned. And I guess what we would call the mainstream argument or mainstream debates, mainstream politics. And instead we get consumed by these mainstream ideas that are only dictated to take advantage of us in the first place. You're not buying your way out of this situation. A lot of people would make well, we're already liberated. Cool. You want, that's your argument. You're already liberated. That's fine. Be happy where you are. Be happy where you are. But we can't turn around and say that systemic racism is a product of the government, but then claim that we're happy with the government. No, nigga, you happy with systemic racism. You're happy with being at a systemic disadvantage. And where capitalism plays the role at is that because you're able to benefit. I don't look at my own personal situation ever and project it on the collective. And yes, there is a collective. Yes, there is. Because when motherfuckers do shit that upsets the collective, what do? They apologize to the collective. Part of the issue that we have is that we think that we can do this financially. We can become financially literate enough to pull ourselves out of the situation that we are currently in, when it ain't about being financially illiterate. It's not about being economically illiterate. It's about autonomy. We make an argument about what we're able to provide. But what is it that we provide? A lot of times what you're able to provide is already dictated by the stores that is in your city. They do the providing, you do the buying. We haven't secured a way to make sure that if anything fails, we'll have running water, lights, food, shelter. None of these things have been secured. As the economy goes, is as we go. There's no way that we can talk about building wealth when your wealth is going to be dictated by the direction of the economy. You're putting yourself at a long-term disadvantage. I talk about it on a regular basis, why imagination is another key point to victory. We have to get back into creating, not just recreating, regurgitate. And that's the thing. They talk about AI as if the AI is going to be creating when we just looked at it. No, it's going based off of, it's stealing shit that's already copywritten and shit that's public domain, meaning shit that you created. And trying to recreate something that's original. It's an uphill climb. It definitely is. But that don't mean we won't make it to the top. Your disadvantage is the fact that is the things that you rely on. That's your disadvantage. Until we gain or create or come up with a way to disconnect ourselves. This is the major thing. We are going to have to disconnect ourselves from the things that are controlling us. 98% of domestic abuse is financial. Comes in a financial form. %98 of domestic abuse comes in a financial form. That means they are because they are able to control, or they feel like because they're able to control when you're going to eat, dictate what you can buy, dictate if you're going to have shelter or not. You're able to be controlled. It isn't until you decide, you make a decision to disconnect yourself from the comfortability of the shelter provided, the financial support provided, that you're actually able to get yourself free from domestic abuse. This is no different for us as a collective. The major way that they domestically, or that they abuse us on a national level, not even just on a national level, on a global level, is because they know that they provide the shelter, they provide the food, they provide the water, and they know you're afraid to disconnect yourself from under their arm. You're going to have to take control of your power before it's too late.
たった一つたった一つのたった一人たった一人の私はここ
Reparations on the table, nigga, we ain't seen shit. Put us under pressure, nigga, we ain't even sweat. Came out shining like a diamond in the middle with some mess. On Martin Luther King, bitch, we coming for a check. Headed to the Capitol to stake my feelings in the mind of a rat who you can't.
たった一つたった一つのたった一人たった一人の私はここ
Reparations on the table, nigga, we ain't seen shit. Put us under pressure, nigga, we ain't even sweat. Came out shining like a diamond in the middle with some mess. On Martin Luther King, bitch, we coming for a check. Headed to the Capitol to stake my feelings in the mind of a rat who you can't ride with me. I'm my only witness when I handle my business. Pull it from the hip, say bye-bye, Billy. No more time for no coasting, I'm on the highway focused. I ain't even smoking, I'm just riding my emotion. Both eyes open, I'm just trying to keep calm. Put an extra set of eyes on them doing recon. Knee deep in snow, say he try and keep going. Told him get up out the cold before my nigga deform. Every old wound seem to getting retorn. I'ma write deep porn to a nigga reborn. I'ma make a statement before I make it out alive. No Channel 5, I would rather make a lie. Before the news try to make a nigga out alive. But the pain in my eyes on a much bigger prize. 501, both hands in the sky. Little do they know it's no plan to survive. I ain't finna give them no chance to decide. I'ma put they feet in both hands in the fire. Dancing in the fire like Eshak. You gon' test the water, never get both feet wet. We done overexposed the city defense to the overexposure indecent. They don't know they diving in the deep end. Ain't no way that they surviving through the weekend. Everything blown in the flash like a beacon. Drowned in the flames, it's too late to let it sink in. Got 10 ways I can be vengeful. Sitting on 10 grenades, every last pin full. This guerrilla war, they don't know what they in for. I can hear them at the door trying to move in slow. I can hold them off, I got 3 shots. Taking every soul for at least 3 blocks. I can smell the fire burning through the sheetrock. Seeing bodies in the flame, nigga try and reach out. This is how you practice what you finna speak out. Thinking about the facts that they try to leave out. This is for my roots running through the deep south. Dying for a cause, what we finna beef out. If you ain't about the cause, what you finna beef out. Showing up deep, we gon' bring the streets out. Every man line up, showing what your street out. An independent state, what a nigga need now.